Hey TCS TV viewers, it's Dave and Evelyn from the camera store.
And today we're talking about the brand new Canon EOS RP.
This is a full frame mirrorless camera from Canon, and we're doing it at my house because we're going to give you guys a little bit of a cooking show.
Yes, a cooking show.
The theme for today's video is all about simple because this camera from Canon is one of their simplest full frame mirrorless cameras that we've ever seen on the market. Now Dave, speaking of simple, do you have any simple recipes that you like to make for all the ladies?
I do actually, and sometimes it's ordering off the menu at a Beers and Camera event, and often it is taking something out of my freezer, opening up the box, putting it in the oven for 20-25 minutes so it's ready to serve.
Okay, well, that's not good enough. So we're gonna do something a little bit better. We're gonna make something totally from scratch with fresh ingredients to match this fresh new camera release. Now, one of the things that's really cool about it is that this camera is actually the lowest priced full frame mirrorless camera that we've seen at time of release.
I recognize this as flour, I believe, but the rest of the stuff looks foreign to me.
Okay, well, I know you like pizza of the frozen variety, so we're gonna make some from scratch. So we have yeast, sugar, oil, and salt, and we're gonna mix up some pizza.
Right on.
But I wanna make sure you look the part and we don't get your shirt all dirty. Okay.
Oh.
Don't be mad. Here you go.
As long as nobody sees this, I'll be...
No one will see it.
Yeah, not too tight, okay?
Terry's looking at you. Okay, so we're gonna proof the yeast.
I have no idea what that means.
You just sprinkle the yeast in the warm water. It's really easy. So we actually brought this camera with us to go photograph some gnomes in a garden center.
So this is two things that I'm completely out of my element with.
This is my video. We're going garden center, we're cooking, it's gonna be great. At the garden center, we wanted to show an example between using an APS-C sensor camera and a full frame. So you can see the difference when we talk about shallow depth of field. Now on the APS-C sensor camera, it was a 77D and we put on a 50mm f1.8, which is this lens here. It's an EF lens, and we did the same thing with the full frame sensor. Now, if Dave and I were at the same distance away from our gnome subject for a nice portrait, you'll notice that on the APS-C sensor camera, you're filling more of the frame. You get the same shallow depth of field, but you're getting a little bit too tight to the subject. So in order to get the same frame as the full frame sensor, you have to take a step back.
That's going to expand your depth of field, giving you a little different look.
Look, Dave, our yeast is blooming. Isn't it beautiful?
That's unbelievably good looking right now.
Can you grab the mixer?
Ah.
I'm gonna take a picture of Dave. Oh, this is gonna be for like your Tinder profile.
And we have pizza.
Well, not quite, but because the dough is the most important part of the pizza, we want to talk about one of the most important parts of a new camera, and that is making sure that it is the right feel and fit for you.
The handling of Canon cameras are really, really good.
Yeah, no, it's not a sexy camera.
No.
When I first saw it, I kind of was like, it's kind of plain, kind of ugly.
I think this may be why I can relate to this camera so well.
Oh, Dave.
So it does have things I really like. The articulating screen on a camera like this is great, and it's in the placement that I really like. So I can flip it right around if I want to do a selfie.
Yeah.
But more importantly for me, low angle shots or high angle shots. I love having this. And it is a touch screen as well.
Yeah, and it's really responsive. Canon does a really great job with their touch screens, and it's very intuitive. Their menu system is well laid out. I also really like that it has a guide mode built into it. So as you're changing your modes on the dials, which are really nice, by the way, they're really firm and tactile. So with aperture priority, it'll tell you if you want either a blurred background to your image or a sharp background.
Canon is really marketing this camera for first-time users. People that aren't necessarily familiar with the terminology, they just kind of know what they want it to look like.
You also have scene modes, and Canon has a lot of really great scene modes, and you can use the touch screen to cycle through them, and it shows you some really beautiful, vivid examples of what that image is going to look like.
So when it comes to connecting things to this camera, it's kind of pretty cool. Now it is USB-C connectivity, but it's only USB 2 transfer speeds.
Now it's a good thing that it does have this USB-C port because you're going to be charging your battery a lot. The CEPA rating on this battery is not very good. It's 250 shots. So even if you're a casual shooter and you're doing a combination of photo and video, you're using your Wi-Fi and the LCD screen, you're gonna chew up that battery really quickly. So you wanna get at least a couple extra batteries to bring along with you. It's not a deal breaker, but of course having that USB-C connection could be really helpful if you have a USB power bank. The viewfinder on this camera is really quite nice. It's 2.36 million dots, so it's not as big and beautiful as the EOS R, but it's very acceptable from a camera of this price point. Now, the refresh rate is 60 frames per second. It's very acceptable, but it's not going to give you as smooth of a look compared to a viewfinder with 100 frames per second or higher. And we're seeing that in cameras like the Sony a7 III or even some APS-C cameras. But if you're someone that's new to mirrorless photography, one of the things that you'll love is that you're able to preview your image constantly through the electronic viewfinder, and it looks really good. And of course, you can overlay whatever features you want to be able to see, whether it's the histogram or some of your image settings, or if you want a clean view, you can do that too right through the electronic viewfinder. Now, because we're a professional cooking show, we actually have some dough that's been rising for a while.
Wow.
So we'll save this for our dinner later.
Okay.
So I can feed my child at some point.
So punch down the dough.
Punch it, yeah.
Punch
it.
down the dough.
Yeah.
Now what?
Like punch it. Like, yeah. It's good for you. Okay, that's plenty. Are you okay there?
It's okay.
Okay, I'm gonna use some flour.
Nope.
Oh, it looks great. I really don't like the sound of the shutter.
Yeah, it's not the most positive sounding shutter out there. It feels a little
It's like
entry level-ish.
Yeah, and of course for frame rate, you only get 5 frames per second, or if you want continuous tracking with focus confirmation, it goes down to 2.5 frames per second.
Yeah.
So
It's
not
not-
a sports and action camera.
No, it's not horrible, and it's certainly usable, but there's really no reason to take it off of continuous high.
Right,
Because
right.
it's not that high.
You like that, don't you?
Oh, hey, husband.
I wonder if you thought you were me because you're wearing my thing.
That would be awkward.
Let's talk about image quality.
Image quality, yeah. How do you find it on the RP?
The images are really nice. I love the skin tones. I think as a camera, that'd be like a really good family camera. Everything's really vivid. And I hate to say it, but it would be a good food photography camera too. When it comes to dynamic range, if you're shooting to expose for your final image and you're shooting for, say, JPEGs, they're gonna look really good. But you can expect a massive improvement if you're upgrading from an APS-C sensor camera in terms of dynamic range at the lower ISOs.
Yeah, no, I think the primary target of this camera isn't going to be shooting raw files at first anyways. So I don't think they're going to be pushing it too far. They're mainly going to be shooting in JPEG.
Yeah, and if you're shooting at mid to high ISOs, the dynamic range is fine. Okay, so now we gotta put toppings on them.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I forgot to make the sauce.
Do you have some kind of bachelor solution to this problem?
I do, in fact. No, I have some tomato sauce in a can.
Ah, perfect. I know how to open that. Smells good.
Yeah, you did a good job. This is normally where you would like start your cooking process of like opening the frozen box and putting it in, right?
And pretty much, yeah, we're ahead of schedule. And usually there's a glass of wine going for most people's idea, from what I understand. I would prefer a pina colada right now, but
If you like me,
let's not do that. YouTube doesn't like when you do that.
I don't think you like when I do that. But yeah, I mean, this is also maybe a good time to talk about autofocus.
Yes, let's talk about autofocus. So the EOS RP does have dual pixel autofocus, which works really, really well. And a welcome addition to this camera is the pupil detection and face detection in continuous autofocus.
Now, we were really hard on the continuous tracking autofocus on the Canon EOS R. And that was primarily because of the price point that that camera is. On this one, we're not going to be as hard on it because it is a lower price point. But it does still work really well with single point autofocus. It's fast, it's accurate, and that touch screen is really handy in being able to select and track your subjects.
So one of the biggest compromises you're going to find.
Oh, it's ready. Just a minute.
So one of the biggest compromises you're going to find with this Canon is the video side of things. It's heavily crippled in the video department. If you're a videographer, you're going to be very frustrated with this spec list.
Yeah, and I mean, it's too bad because they've decked it out with a headphone jack, a mic jack, the flippy screen that's fully articulating. So there's a lot of really good features in this camera that would make it great for video. For casual video shooters, it's extremely easy to get into shooting a video clip. So if you're shooting away stills, you just have to hit that red button and then you'll go back to shooting stills right away when you end your clip. However, you're still getting a pretty significant crop on 4K. Not to mention, you can only shoot in 24p if you're shooting 4K, and then you can only shoot in 30p or 60p if you're shooting in 1080.
That doesn't make any sense. I don't get it.
No, and even for today, we decided to use 1080 because we wanted to shoot in 30p, so we weren't able to shoot this video in 4K. Another disappointing loss with 4K is that you sacrifice dual pixel autofocus. Just another reason why we're shooting today's episode in 1080. Now, does it look good? I mean, you guys tell us. It'd be great for just casual video users, but if you're someone that's getting more serious about video, you gotta look at some other options.
Definitely on that fact.
Yeah. Now, as a still photography camera,
yeah, I
we
mean,
like this.
We're quite enjoying it. You have to accept it for what it is, and you know, I like the size of it. I do like this little 35mm lens, and if you are coming from a previous generation of this camera, you can adapt your glass to it. But once you start playing around with more expensive glass, you get spoiled.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I mean, this is kind of like Canon's gateway drug. I'm finding into the full frame world, because you get into the camera relatively inexpensive, and with the 35mm, it's a relatively inexpensive RF lens, and you can, with the adapter, bring in the other lenses. If you can get to that.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Were you keeping those in there the whole time?
So this is the RF adapter for EF glass, and this is the 50mm 1.8 that we were using for our gnome shoots.
Right.
So basically this just makes up where the mirror and the prism used to be, but it does add a little bit of size to the camera, and you start losing the advantage of the mirrorless size.
Well, and just remember that the mount adapter takes all EF lenses, including older and expensive Canon or third-party lenses, giving you access to a huge selection of glass without any light loss, and as close to native mount performance as you can get.
Yeah, now keep in mind too, if you do get into the RF series and you start getting, shooting with their RF glass, like their 50 and their other 28 to 70, they are amazing glass.
Beautiful.
But they have no size advantage whatsoever to the mirrorless side of things. They're both sizable lenses, but their image quality is spectacular. But I don't think that's the market they're going for.
No, if you want to take advantage of image preview, a nice viewfinder, you want to have the good image quality, the full frame sensor capabilities, then you got it with this camera. There's a couple little things, it doesn't have the dual card slots, just like its big brother, the R. They did take away the little screen that came down when you were taking off your lenses.
That's a shocker.
So that
I don't know.
Kind of sad to see.
I don't know the logic behind that at all. It sounds like something they could implement quite easily. Why did they take it out? I don't know.
I still would love to see a joystick, but I'm very happy to see that they took off that multi-touch bar, and I'm confident that we will not see it again, but what do I know?
No, I think we are going to see it again, personally.
What?
I think so, but I'm quite happy with what this camera is capable of.
Well, we hope that you enjoyed our overview of this camera, the RP. We were going to eat some of this pizza eventually. Are you going to cut?
I'm starving.
Go for it. Let us know what you thought of this review and cooking show by commenting below. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe.
And make sure you follow us on Instagram.
And we'll catch you guys again soon.